Okay.
All right, notifications out. Give it a couple more seconds. Let some people come in. And then we'll get this show on the road.
Get it on the road.
All right, hey friends. Rolf here with you again today with the Louisville ProActivist Report. Got another great interview lined up. We're talking all things cannabis today, so it should be an exciting show. I have a guest with me today, Bridget Dorsey, and Bridget has just started a nonprofit called the Kentucky Cannabis Legalization Advocates. So we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about all the bills in the state and at the federal levels. Basically all things cannabis. So if you have any questions, comments, drop them down and we'll address those, share this out. We'll get started. So let me introduce you to Bridget.
Hey everybody, hi y'all.
Adjust this a little bit here.
Can you see me?
All right, nice. Thanks for joining me today.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you've got this brand new nonprofit that's as fresh as can be, about a week old or so.
Yes, that's right.
Kentucky Cannabis Legalization Advocates. So just talk about how that nonprofit came about and what your goals are with it.
Okay, so about 5 years ago, I got pretty sick, and the short version is I ended up losing my stomach, and during the course of that, I got really sick. So I knew that I needed to do something to advocate for cannabis legalization, because ultimately it was cannabis that actually allowed me to get better and actually treat my medical condition and start to function and get out of hospitals and things. And there was no one that I at least was aware of that was advocating for folks that were actually being arrested for cannabis, that were in jail on a Kentucky statewide, level. And I felt like that was really important. But initially, I didn't know how to do any of that. So I started out as 420lifeline.com and just thought, maybe if we let it be known that we want to advocate for legalization, we could start to connect with other groups, and we could just do it through the business, entrepreneurship avenue, because I thought that way we could raise money for the community and we could decide what we would do with it. Like, as I said, I didn't know about political nonprofits, so I was not aware that you could actually be a nonprofit and advocate for a political cause. I thought that if I became a nonprofit, then we wouldn't have a voice, that we wouldn't be allowed to speak up, and that turns out not to be true at all. So thank goodness for education.
Right.
Right. So yeah. Turns out there are a lot of people that are locked up. Today I looked it up, and I can't find data for 2021, 2020, 2019, I don't know if the numbers don't exist, if they stopped putting them in, if I just can't find them. It goes to 2016 and it just cuts that off. It says that in this state there were close to 6,000 people that were arrested, almost 6,000 people just for possession alone, about 900 and something for trafficking, and really, to me, that's a tax crime. You're really upset with them because they're making money and they're not paying their taxes. Now, that's a separate issue.
Right.
So I don't think it's criminal. I don't think you should lock someone up in actual jail for that. So, but
I agree. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're talking about a plant. So, So, obviously this is something that's very important to you. So just tell us about, what inspired you to do this? Why do you support cannabis so much, and kind of what's your story behind this?
That's a big question. And I talk too much sometimes, you guys, so I really hope I can stay focused. Wow. So I don't even really know where to start. to answer that question, to be honest with you, because the truth is cannabis has been in my life a very long time, since probably it was introduced to me as a youth. I didn't have any interest in trying anything else or doing anything else. And me and my friends would just experiment, you know, and smoke joints behind the pool hall type thing. But I was susceptible to being, finding comfort in anything that would have given me comfort at that time, because I was an emotional teenager who had been through a traumatic background. I was unwanted, like from birth. My mother found out she was pregnant with me in a psychiatric institution, and it was not yay, I'm having another baby. It was like, great, I have this to deal with, and I'm 15 and I already have 2 kids. And I don't think bad or ill of her, because she was just a child with medical problems like a lot of people, you know, and I'm just glad I'm here. So, you know, I want to make sure that I don't turn the tables that way, or, you know, I think sometimes we don't understand the shoes other people are in, you know, and so for me, that's what advocacy is all about, is trying to put yourself in the perspective of someone else. When I was in prison, we read this article. It was called Body Rituals of the NIMA. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not.
I'm not familiar with it.
Well, it's kind of a famous piece of literature they introduce, I think, to most freshmen in college, and it's actually American spelt backwards. NIMA is American spelt backwards. But this guy wrote this entire article about all these weird things that he saw us do. Like, we would stay in this closet, he said, and worship our medicines for hours, and he was talking about a bathroom. And it was just like trying to see life from a completely different perspective. Well, when I was in prison, I met people that would have amazed you. They were not dumb. They were not any of the stereotypes that you saw portrayed. They had just gotten the wrong car, or they had just maybe not made some of the best decisions for themselves because they didn't even know those decisions existed, or they value themselves. And so resources in prison led to me getting college degrees, led to me building a little self-esteem that had been lacking from not having a parent, not having that community support. You know, I know now I found out pass for white, but growing up in Magnolia, that wasn't the case. I was picked on a lot because my hair is real, I got pictures, like it was real, you know, different. And now I love me. It's okay. That's one of the reasons why I loved Senator, well, I'm sorry, he's not senator yet, but Representative Charles Booker's girls they put in for the Crown Act. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just, you know,
right,
great. So advocacy can change lives. It can change the way things are. And I think we think people need to be in prison for drugs because that's, you know, the war on drugs said, oh, this is causing crime, so we should, you know, if we put these people in prison, then crime will stop. But that actually hasn't been true at all, or hasn't happened, because most of the crimes that were connected to anything that was drug related, they were nonviolent. It's like 67% of all offenders in prison are non-violent and have a drug related element to them.
It's crazy.
So it's all about poverty,
mm-hmm.
and opportunity and chances. And so if you don't have anyone who says you are capable, you know, you don't have to follow the footsteps of whatever happened. It doesn't matter that you don't fit into this. There is something you're good at. There's something you can do. If you don't have that, then if you don't find it in yourself somewhere along the line, then we end up with brothers and sisters out there on the streets who are lost. And I just think that whether we like it or not, we are our brother's keeper or sister's keeper. Like, all of us are connected. And so locking up almost three-quarters of a million people, almost three-quarters of a million people in a single year because they have trauma or pain or something and they just want to kick back and smoke weed. I don't get it. I mean, there's bars on almost every corner and there's, I feel like less danger with cannabis. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling because I want you to get into the bills.
All right. And yeah, I just want to, on that last comment too, I just want to say a lot of that is the prison industrial complex. And, that's what happens when you have for-profit prisons, is it becomes a business. Their goal is to make money. In order to do that, they need prisoners. So it's really easy to target the poor, target minorities. And that's how this drug war started to begin with, was targeting minorities as well as anti-war hippies. So that was a good way to get minorities and protesters off the street, lock them up because they smoke weed, and now they're making money off of it, which is how we're in this situation today. So again, I'm here with Bridget Dorsey, and we're talking about cannabis legalization. If you have any questions for Bridget, just drop them in the comments and we'll get to those.
Yeah.
We're about to start talking about some of the bills at the state and federal level, but before we do that, I do want to mention, when it comes to activism, there's two ways to go about it. Obviously, one is political, trying to get bills passed.
Oh, yeah.
The second is direct action, and that's taken to the streets, and you do that as well. You hold every Friday, I believe, you hold a weekly rally outside. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. And actually, I want to give credit where it's due because I didn't start that rally. As I understand, it was Tom Rector Jr., who is actually a volunteer advocate on the board of directors for Kentucky Cannabis Legalization Advocates. So he is an important voice in my ear. I hope he will help me make good decisions, help us all make good decisions as we go forward to not harm the community any worse than it has already been harmed, because we don't want to do that. But yes, we do go straight to the streets, 601 West Broadway, every single Friday from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, just an hour. We get out there, we play music, we jam out, old school, the OJs, whatever, and just play music in front of the courthouse and hold signs up to get honks to bring attention. In addition to that, I have also, we just got installed our hotline, and people can call it. It's mostly for folks that are in jail, because if you're not in jail, we'd prefer you use our website or email, because that way that phone line can just, every single time it rings, we can get a person if they're calling, and which we're in the process of funding Securus and Evercom, so everybody be patient with that. But the number is 502-409-7014. And if you're in jail and you've been arrested for cannabis charges, or if you are on the streets and you are someone who is struggling with opiate addiction, and you're trying to figure out how to get to a point where you can manage your medicine a little better, we are all about trying to help anybody on the street that's having medical management issues get resources. And anyone out there who is a medical management resource that wants to help us, that wants to work with people and is willing to consider cannabis as a possible solution, we'd really like to hear from those people. Lawyers also. Anyone who is willing to help us fight for the rights of these folks that we feel like are being discriminated against. So.
Exactly. For those wondering why I haven't gone live at one of those Friday events, unfortunately I work that shift. But rest assured, if I'm ever off on a Friday, you'll see my camera down there. Sandra says they never thought minorities and hippies would band together against them. It's so true. And, it's kind of the, not related to cannabis, but it's kind of the old playbook that Fred Hampton used back in the day, pulling minorities and, Southern quote-unquote rednecks together to fight for the same cause. So, it's kind of along that playbook. Sometimes people with differences have more in common than they think, and they can band together and get stuff done.
Yes.
which is why we see the media and the government try to play us against each other so much, is so that we don't do that. So that said, we have a myriad of bills to talk about here. We're going to start at the state level, especially because I got up this morning and going through articles as I do every morning, and lo and behold, there's a new medical marijuana bill that's just been, I guess it's not filed technically yet, but it will be, I believe, in the 22 session, and that's from Representative Jason Nemes. He's actually from Louisville. So with this bill is so new, it doesn't have a name or a number yet. Mm-hmm. And I can't really look through all the details, just what's being reported, but according to the article, it's no smoke. It is only edibles and oils. It's going to limit the amount of licensed growers in the state to 15 licensed growers, and it's going to cap dispensaries at 25 total. I can't say that I'm a very big fan of this bill at all. Give us your thoughts on it, at least what we know so far.
Yeah, so actually today I tried to look up this bill to find more about it and to read more about it, and I was able to at least determine that, I'm not going to be a very big supporter of this bill either. I want cannabis legal, I do, but any bill that prohibits growing from a person who is ingesting a product is completely immoral, in my opinion, because you are forcing capitalism on me. You are saying that it's fine for us as long as we give you this product, but you can't provide it for yourself, which forces me to be dependent on a medical system that half of the people in this country do not even agree we should be paying for. And that is extremely dangerous. I feel like growing cannabis is something that they just need to get over. It's seeds. It could keep prices down. This is a way that folks who are in poverty could actually get behind at least a portion of us could take care of our medical worries. I mean, if you have anyone who's ever had to try to purchase cannabis, if you need to use cannabis on a level where, I don't know, you had to use an ounce a week in order to maintain a medical condition, that would be hundreds of dollars if you had to buy it from the government, because they're going to throw regulations on it that don't really even make any sense. You're going to have one particular person say that it didn't change after you modified the genetics and insure it constantly just so you can charge people like a fortune. It's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, no, I'm not a big supporter. I'm also not a supporter of bills that try to outlaw smoking in public. I am not, because I'll tell you why. So I got COVID this summer, and I went to the hospital. I didn't know that I had COVID. I was dehydrated really bad, and I knew that I had bad pain in my kidneys. And like I said at the beginning, I lost my stomach. I had weight loss surgery, and it went really bad. I got a leak. I lost 250 pounds. I was hospitalized over 50 times. I spent 4 years in the hospital. Couldn't eat for 10 months. 10 months. People cannot even imagine what it is like psychologically not to be able to eat for 10 months. But one day, someone said to me, I don't care that your church kicked you out before, because I literally got a letter from a church before telling me that I could not use cannabis to treat my conditions, that if I used cannabis, I was kicked out as a member. I quit using cannabis for a span of 5 years and had multiple types of arthritis, deteriorating bone disease. That was before my stomach even got taken out, the nausea issues and all that. A lot of folks look at me and they think I'm super healthy, but I do a pretty good job of faking it, to be honest. And if it was not for cannabis, I could not be anywhere any day. I couldn't. And here's the thing. When I went to the hospital, they said you can't eat, so that meant no oral pills. So that meant in order to give me pain medicine, they're now going to inject Dilaudid into my veins. And I had battled for a year because of the medicine they give me to get off of fentanyl patches and Dilaudid, because I did things like put holes in my wall, scream at my husband, and you know, if the police showed up, I love Mike. To me, he looks like a gentle soul, and I think he's awesome. But after everything I've seen the last couple of years on the cameras, I'm a little scared about police showing up at my house over some call about mental illness, and then they see a black man and they see a white passive female, and then they think, and then what happens? You know, it's very scary. Just not having cannabis be a fear could eliminate at least a portion of that. Because I wouldn't be perceived as a dangerous criminal anymore. I would just be perceived as someone who's just a medical patient. Or at least eventually we would hope that we could be perceived that way.
Right. And society's heading there too. It's just, you know, and even our politicians, I think deep down know it, but when you're getting tons of kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies, you know, it's not in their financial interest to legalize.
Yeah.
That's literally our main roadblock.
Many people don't realize smoking comes in really quick. Like if you're in super pain, like that's what happens to me. I'll be throwing up. I won't be able to eat. And if I can just go and just a few, you know, puffs off of, I use like hemp with no nicotine in them. And I'm sure that it probably would be better. I mean, just out of common sense. If I am going to be a regular user, would I love to be able to have oil available to me? Yes, I would. But what if that doesn't work for me the same? What if that doesn't cure me the same? I don't know, because I, as a person, haven't got to do that on a regular, consistent basis, because it takes a 1/4 pound of cannabis to make just a single gram of that oil. And that means they're going to get a fortune. They're going to be making like opiate prices off of growing seeds. Our government will be, if they are allowed to be in control of, you know, creating an industry where it's about profit and money and not about health. That's my biggest fear. You know, it's not so much, sure, let's have government equality and fair if we can ensure it's actually going to be equality and fair. But historically, we just don't see that. So
yeah. And that's how I'm with you. I think any legalization bill, if it's not done right, we need to block it. It would be one thing if we could rely on our politicians to get a bill in and say, hey, it's not quite doing enough, and then improve it. But that doesn't happen. They do a bad bill, they say they fixed it, and they move on to something else, and then we're stuck with a bad bill. Mm-hmm. Sometimes intentionally bad, sometimes not, sometimes just out of ignorance or whatever. But nevertheless, it's a bad bill or an incomplete bill. And so, you know, we've waited this long. If we have to wait a little bit longer to get a real bill, then I would rather do that than just, you know, jump on the first thing that comes up. So we do have another bill going on in Kentucky. That's House Bill 461. That's called the Responsible Cannabis Use Bill. That was actually authored by NIMA Kulkarni and endorsed by Attica Scott. I think Lisa Wilmer might be on that one too. Don't quote me on that. It might just be those two. But yeah, talk about that bill a little bit. This is actually a legalization bill, not a medical marijuana bill. So talk about it and what's your thoughts on it.
Okay, so I have to be honest, I'm not familiar with this.
That's Attica's bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess the reason why I am a little familiar with this bill, and I'm hesitant to answer this question because I am a super Attica Scott fan, and I just don't want her to be angry at me. I really don't, because I love her. I really do, and it's really... but in her bill, it actually did have some of the same problems. I saw that you weren't allowed... there was going to be this thing where you had to track seed from the very beginning till the very end, and if you failed to do so, there could be really harsh consequences. And there was also a prohibition for smoking cannabis in public. I understand that it stinks, right? But so do public bathrooms. You know, I'm sorry, but if it's someone's medicine, you wouldn't tell someone you can't do your colostomy bag in this public bathroom because it's going to stink. Or you wouldn't say to them, you know, you can't take your diabetes medication now because I have a fear of needles. Although those things may be very true, it's still someone else's right also to be in public too. And I wish people could understand that. I mean, sure, do I think it would be great if we made like designated areas for folks? I'd be willing to compromise. Absolutely. Can you give me a space where I can walk away to give you some room? Yes. But to just outright say, you have to switch to pills in order to come out in public, or you just have to deal with pain, period. I just, no. So, and I hate to have that opinion because, I mean, Attica has done a lot of bills for everything from people's personal hygienes to just standing up for one set of minorities after another. So the last thing I want to do is stop her progress or knock her down. But I just wish we could maybe have a conversation a little bit more about the cannabis side of things, because I really think that if she understood what's happening to our people and what is really going on to the real levels of how it's being manipulated and how growing is part of that, I think she'd be on our side. So yeah, I'm really hopeful that we can improve that.
Yeah, you know? And I think both Attica and NIMA, NIMA had more to do with writing it than Attica did. But you know, they're both people who are willing to talk to people and listen and take feedback. And you know, I think if we can make that happen before the legislative session, that there might be some changes in that bill possibly. Cause
for sure. And NIMA, is it NIMA or NIMA?
NIMA.
With an M?
Yes.
I have been writing it wrong in her emails and everything.
Don't ask me to spell it off the top of my head. I have to look it up every
fix
time.
That.
Yeah.
So yes, I reached out to NIMA Kulkarni before I got sick, and she was going to speak with me, and then I went to the hospital, and so she is willing. I've had several people's representatives that tell me if I can match up their schedule, they would be willing to speak with me. So I am really excited now that we've got it as a nonprofit. That was one of the dilemmas. I actually started this as 420 Lifeline LLC, and I found out you couldn't work with almost anyone because no matter what my goals or what me and my husband's goals were as a company, even though our plan was to take the profits and put it in the community, it read as though maybe we were trying to make money off of cannabis. And so that led hesitancy to anyone being able to support us. So I get it fixed. So now we can work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially groups like Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice. They are awesome. They were out this weekend knocking on doors, trying to end cash bail. I think that goes right hand in hand with the type of things that we're trying to do. So
yeah, L-Surge is great. Shout out to L-Surge. So
yeah, for sure.
I've had Sonia Wild DeVries on here before last year, and she's a big member with them, and just, you know, she's great. The whole organization is great.
For sure.
So yeah, what would you like ideally, what would your state bill look like if you were the author?
Wow. So if I was the author, honestly, I would just completely legalize cannabis across the board. And I don't really think it needs to be that complicated, because if anyone breaks any other laws that are already in existence, they already exist. So we don't need to go around looking for, you know, cannabis patients, because the evidence I have seen on all of the studies that check out what happens if you make someone submit to drug test, what happens if you put a parole officer over someone, they end up using pills or alcohol or meth or cocaine because it can come out of their system in 3 days. But cannabis stays in your system much longer. So how some people on our pamphlet, it says it's not a gateway drug, it's a gateway drug. The truth is most people would never have to go anywhere else, I don't think, considering how severe my pain issues are and considering the level of how high I was. I mean, you can't get higher than 100 milligrams of fentanyl on a fentanyl patch. That's as high as it goes. And nurses coming in and they're testing my blood pressure and they're like, I don't know if we can give you pain medicine because it's so low, you're not breathing, your respiratory rates are too low. And I'm sitting there like dying in pain, like burning. And you're like, why would you leave me? Like, it's very traumatic. There are people right now that are being treated by nurses like, oh my gosh, you're getting on my nerves. And you can't blame them because they're so busy that from the outside, you would look at somebody and think, just get over it. You're just in pain because you can't see someone's pain. So it's a really personal thing. And you can end up being called crazy. You can end up being just grouped into stereotypes and then people not even wanting to deal with you at all. It's dangerous. You could end up institutionalized. That is an actual fear of mine. That what if I'm having a bad day and my pain is so bad and so in control and they don't know, and then, you know, that's a real fear. These laws can have real consequences. There are people that are life sentences right now. They're sitting in prison. That's crazy. You shouldn't have people with that kind of time and then you're selling it in, I think it's 20 or 30 states now. Maybe 35, I think, have variations of, I believe it's 35, have some type of either medical or all the way out recreational cannabis. And we just happen to be one of the states that doesn't. Yet.
We'll be there, though.
Yes.
Just quick anecdote.
Okay.
Several years ago, I can't remember the name of it, National Geographic did a documentary on cannabis, and it was a nationwide focused documentary, but one of the segments they did was in eastern Kentucky with the sheriff there, and he said, quote, "Over my dead body, we will be the last state to legalize," as he was burning crops in the scene that they had found out in the wild. And I just want to let him know, your days are numbered because it's coming. The people want it. It used to be taboo. It's not so taboo anymore. This is where the country is headed. This is where society is headed. What I would like to see in a bill, obviously full legalization, decriminalization. I would like to see records expunged.
Yes.
I would like to see people be able to grow, and plenty of opportunity for dispensaries, licensing, that kind of thing. And last but not least, and Ohio found this out the hard way with the bill, is no Marlboro type monopoly situations. This is a bill for the people. This isn't, Ohio basically tried to do a quote unquote legalization bill that only allowed one corporation to grow. That's not a legalization bill, that's a monopoly bill.
A monopoly, yeah.
So let's see here on the time, 4:51. So we've got about 10 more minutes here in this space. So let's move on to some national bills here.
Okay.
There's 3 of them going on. So let's talk about them. The first one is H.R. 3617. That's the MORE Act. And that's basically decriminalization. So give me your thoughts on the MORE Act.
Okay, so the MORE Act, I was actually going around advocating that bill the most because I thought at least finally someone is admitting that harm has been done to black and brown people off of cannabis and it should be repaired. And it actually acknowledged that harm, I thought. I thought it was about expunging records and a whole bunch of stuff. Then I saw a post by Tom Rector Jr. who he actually had highlighted a section of this bill that it said basically if you were caught growing and you weren't approved as a grower, if you broke any of these steps along the way, you could be facing up to like 20 years. I mean,
Crazy.
It's an enormous amount of time. So they hid away in that bill to just, it's all about deciding who gets to do what. You know, it's ironic you bring up a sheriff, because I grew up in a little small town, Hart County, Kentucky, and there was a sheriff there that, and he's passed away now, he's gone, but he went to federal prison because he was part of actually targeting people. He would get to decide who could have weed, who couldn't, who could do whatever and who couldn't. And that's kind of the way it was when I was growing up, is that it wasn't that the police or their relatives or the people around them, it wasn't that they didn't do these things. It was just that they had the power to keep it secret. And the other people didn't. And I think that's unfortunate, because honest to goodness, I don't want to be a criminal. Like, I don't think it's good that we fear police or that they have to fear us. And I think this is a bad situation. I wish we could fix it. I don't know how we can fix that, though, with the history being what it is and so deep. So that's a whole nother show. Rob, you have to have a whole show on just, you know, how do we fix police relations and what does that even have to do with cannabis? That's a whole show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But
well, let's move on then to the next bill, which is HR 1996. That is the Safe Banking Act.
oh,
And for those that don't know about this bill, this basically, as it stands right now, even where in the states where it's legal, dispensaries have a hard time doing business because they're basically forced to go cash only. What this does is it creates a safety situation. I mean, besides any business owner, you know, this is 2021. They need to be able to operate with credit cards digitally and everything. But besides being archaic, it really does create a safety situation for the business and the employees, because now they're stuck holding all this cash on hand, so it makes them a target for theft. Mm-hmm. So the Safe Banking Act would actually, it states that the government would no longer interfere with banking services for these businesses. So talk about that a little bit. What's your thoughts on it?
okay. So I don't know if this is going to make me very popular in the community or not, but I'm actually, I'm not a supporter of that bill yet, and the reason why is I want those businesses to put pressure on the government to legalize cannabis, and I think that if we allow businesses to operate and make money before that is done, then I just don't think we're going to have their support and expansion. I don't think they're going to care. If there's a motivation for them, hey, I don't want to be a target, I don't want to be left alone, then we're going to have their support in pushing legislators to legalize and decriminalize cannabis. And for me, the people should be the first priority. Like, no way should you have licenses to get to do, like, I want you to have licenses. I do, because I would love to come to a dispensary and be like, so I have PTSD and I would like a strand that's good for that. Or I would love to come in and say, you know, I want something that will help my appetite. And there's a professional that can do that. And that's why you should get paid. It's for those services, and that I'm all for it. But not while there are people that are sitting in jail for growing their own or for evading their taxes for not paying them. No. You guys should help each other. I totally want you to have your way, but I just want you to help them advocate theirs first. So
that's it. In some of these states where it's legalized, they seem to forget that there are states where we don't have the same privileges. So, you know, it's like the fight is over for them, and they're not worried about it.
Exactly.
I recently took a trip to California and visited a dispensary there for the first time in my life, and you know, and tell them where I'm from Kentucky, nothing is legal there, and you know, and they don't even know how to act, because it's like, you know, it's been legal there so long they just can't even
imagine.
Yeah. So But it'd be nice to have the support of these states, because we need to do this federally anyways.
Yes.
So that brings us up to the last federal bill that we have, and this one here I actually am a fan of because it's a very basic bill, and it basically does one thing, and it's an important thing, and this is H.R. 365. This is called the 1 to 3 Act. That's not the number 2, but just TO 1 to 3 Act. Basically, all this bill does is currently cannabis is listed federally as a Schedule I drug. That means as a Schedule I drug, they see no medical benefit, and it's basically the worst of the worst as a Schedule I drug. What this bill would do is drop it down to a level 3, so 2 levels below. That means it does show promise for medical use. And that's a big deal, and it's treated completely differently by law enforcement as far as that goes. So I think that's a very important thing to do. Also, one other tidbit to that, as a Schedule I drug, it blocks a lot of research that scientists are able to do because of it being a Schedule I drug. But you take it down to Schedule III, and now that opens up more research possibilities, and we can learn more about this plant.
Yes.
Stuff that we don't know now because we can't research these things. So I think that one's a pretty good act. What do you think about it?
No, I agree. That act I'm absolutely in favor of because I think it will do a lot to change people's view and to end the stigmatization of cannabis. I definitely think that it will go a long way. So I think when you tell people, yes, it does have medicinal value. And then also it adds on to what I believe it was President Obama who actually came in and inspired other colleges being able to research cannabis because it was just like one college, I think in Mississippi or something, for years that could even do that. And I believe it was in like maybe 2000, I don't know, 8 to 12, somewhere in there. They came in and said, we're going to allow research now in universities and colleges. I'm sure they have to go through a process in order to get approved, but at least it opened the door.
Yeah. It cracked the door, and this bill would open it all the way.
Yes, this would do a lot, so for sure.
So yeah, really hoping for that. I don't know if that will make it through and become a law or not, but put pressure on your legislators, and let's do our best to let them know we want that law. So let's see where we're at. We're right at 5 here, so we're going to have to wrap it up. So just anything else we haven't covered or anything else you want to say about cannabis in general?
Well, the only thing I really want to say that I haven't got to say is just to go check out our website so that you all can follow us for events. It's www.420lifeline.com. If you need to schedule a legal consultation, like after you've been arrested or something and you're out, you can do that through our website at your convenience. There's a calendar and everything, and if we can't work it, we'll get with you. And like I said, if you know someone who is incarcerated that needs our help, please contact us. We're actually really eager to try to help people, so don't hesitate to call. So, yeah, that's all.
All right. So what's the name of your website again?
It's 420lifeline.com, 420lifeline.com.
And then also you have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, right?
Yes, and those are, I just made that like a username, and I forgot what it was.
I think they're both under the Kentucky Cannabis Legalization Advocates.
It is Kentucky Cannabis Legalization Advocates. If you search us, you can find us for sure. So.
All right, yeah, and those are new. I just joined in there myself and following the page. So yeah, you want to keep up with this work going on in Kentucky as we fight this fight. Make sure you are following those pages and join that group, and you'll stay up to date and can join the fight. So. On that note, unfortunately, we have to go. This is a great topic. We could probably both sit here for a long time and talk more, but we have a space rented here, and our time's kind of up, and we're a little bit over, so we're going to have to get out of here. But thank you so much for coming on, Bridget.
Thank you for having me.
If I can get a Friday off, you will see me there at your event, hopefully one day, because I'd very much like to attend that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, are we good?
All right, I'm just going to wrap it up real quick here. Thank you all for watching. This is what I do, completely independent and local, nonprofit. So The only way to help me out is by liking, sharing, commenting, smashing all those appropriate buttons. You know what to do. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's YouTube. I'm on Odyssey now as well. So follow me on all those. Share this out. Thanks for watching. Until next time, and remember, always think critically.
Yes.